Blue light flashing down the railroad track, blue smoke falling from the old smokestack. Oh, blue train, don't leave me behind.
Hello folks, welcome to Outdoors with Bud. I'm your host, Bud Fields. You know, I get a lot of emails and phone calls from people wanting me to go into detail about certain types of equipment I use. Some people are concerned about what's the difference between a spinning reel and a bait casting reel. Which is the most popular? Which should I use? Well, in all honesty, there's never one right tool for every application. I'm going to talk to you first about a spinning reel. A spinning reel, a lot of people does not think you can use it for bass fishing because normally they're smaller, they're not heavy, not as heavy as a bait caster, but a lot of people like myself like to use a spinning reel for finesse fishing. So what I would like to do today, I'm going to show you a little bit about a spinning reel and some of the adjustments that you need to make on it, and basically anybody can master these. They're not all that difficult. You can buy them basically anywhere. But one thing you got to remember on a spinning rod and reel, the spinning reel is designed to be below the rod handle. Now I'm right-handed, so most of the time you're going to see me use this. The rod will be in my right hand, and I'm going to be using my left hand to turn the crank to reel it. So a spinning reel most of the time is used by a lot of anglers because you can use lighter weight line such as 6, 8, maybe 10 pound test line. Most of the time I use 8 pound test line on a spinning reel. And they've got drag adjustments, they've got a lot of adjustments on them, and they do need to be cleaned and maintained just like anything. The better care you take on it, the longer it's going to last you. Now the first thing people want to know, how do you actually use it? Now bear in mind I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, you're going to be using it just a little bit different. But I hold the rod and reel in my right hand. I take my index finger of my right hand, I reach down and I pull the line up. With my opposite hand, I will open what they refer to as a bail. It's the wire thing that goes around the front of the face of the reel, and open it up. Once you do that, only thing you're doing, you're holding that line with your finger and you're basically ready to cast. All you have to do to cast that then is to bring the rod back, bring it forward, put your finger down, and the weight of the lure will propel the line out to the water. Just very simply throw it out there. Now, there is also a drag adjustment that needs to be done, and a lot of trophy fish are lost because of improper adjustment of the drag. What the drag is actually the resistance on the reel against the weight of the fish and the fish fighting it, and you want that drag to be set just right. In this particular reel, the drag adjustment is on the very front. It's just a little knob, you can rotate it back and forth. And when you do that, you will hear a little audible click in there. Some reels will have the drag on the back. But what you want to do in most cases is when you first get your reel on there, the way I like to check my drag, I will just simply hold it and I'll take my hand and just try to manually pull some line through that reel. Now if you watch as I'm doing that, you can see that spool spin. If you get it way too loose, you can pull the line out real easy. Well, if you do that, that fish is going to strip as much line out there, then you're going to have to battle him to get him back. You don't want it that loose. What I like to do, I like to just adjust that enough to where I can get hold of that, and if you watch that spool just a little bit and watch me pull that out of there, it takes a little bit of effort to pull that out. If you get that set too tight, you're going to lose a lot of fish because the line will just snap. But a spinning reel is a great tool to have. You can use it for fishing for all kind of panfish. You can use it for bass, and the bigger series. This particular one is a 30 series. Some of them make a 10, which is like an ultralight, very small. Then they've got a 20 and a 30. The 20s and 30 series around this area are very popular. Then if you get into the catfish and some of your bigger fish, you might want to get to the 40 to 50 to 60 series. But most of the time around this area, get you a 20 or a 30 series and you're really going to like it. And the more ball bearings you can get in it, just like this one is a 10 ball bearing, they're extremely smooth and easy to use. But that's That's basically all there is. Now you do need to maintain them. Find you somebody at a sporting goods store or a tackle shop that knows what they're doing working on them, and you maintain them. They're going to last you for years, and you can actually pass them down to your kids and grandkids. I've done this many times. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now I'm going to explain some of the workings of a bait casting or a casting reel. A lot of people don't like to use these because of the dreaded bird's nest and the backlashes. Well, a lot of people, if they tell you they've never used one of these and had a backlash, they've never used one much, or they're lying to you. It's plain and simple. They may be a politician. I've been using these things for over 50 years and I still get backlashes. A bait casting reel is normally a little heavier duty. You use larger line. Most of the time I will use a minimum of a 12-pound test line, and I have used upwards of 40-pound depending on what line that I'm using. Now, the bait casting reel, this is a right-handed reel, so of course on this one I'm going to be basically casting the rod with my right hand, and then I'm actually switching the rod to my left hand to where I'm going to be reeling it with my right hand. And I'm going to show you some of the things that separates this from the spinning reel. The bait casting reel, on one side, on this one right here, this is basically a brake adjustment. You can adjust this much like the brakes on your car to where you don't have to put much pressure on it. There's also on the other side of it, there's what looks like a star or a spur off of a cowboy boot. This is your drag adjustment. This is the adjustment where you can tighten it up to make it where the line comes off the spool easy or not. There's also a device that looks very much like a sewing thimble right here on the right hand side. Now this is the clutch adjustment right here. Now the thing about it is, some of them has got, like this one right here, this has got a thumb release where you push the thumb bar down, then you use your thumb. When you push the thumb bar down, the spool goes into what is referred as a free spool. There's no brake, there's no nothing on it. The lure can actually propel itself out there on the line. What you want to do is the minute you push that down, if you can see me doing that, and please forgive the the band-aid on my thumb, I had a little accident. When I push that thumb bar down, I put my thumb on that spool. If I don't, that line can start rolling out. But there are some adjustments on these that are not all that difficult. Now the thing about a bait casting reel is you got to use what I like to refer to as an educated thumb. When you make your cast out there, just before that lure hits the water, you want to apply thumb pressure on that spool, because if you don't, that lure is going to hit the water and that line's going to continue to rotate, and that's where you get all your backlashes. You get all the line coming up and you can't even see the reel. And there's an adjustment that needs to be made every time that you do it. No matter what lure you use, that little clutch adjustment that I showed you that looked like a thimble, just like on this particular bait right here, what you want to do is have that bait within 10 inches of the rod tip, push that spool. You want that bait to drop slowly. You don't want it to drop real fast. If I push that button just like that right there, that is entirely too fast. So what I want to do is pull that back up here. What I do, I tighten that up to where I can push that button and that lure does not fall at all, and then gradually turn it and loosen it up. Now that's where a lot of people get their backlashes. They do not know how to adjust that clutch. They go out there and they make a cast, they get the old backlash in there, they get upset, they get aggravated, and the next thing you know, they've had it. I don't want any more of those reels. And all they got to do is learn how to use it. Use that educated thumb that I talked about. Anybody can get to where you can use one of these and eliminate 80 to 90%. Now sometimes you're going to get out there, and when it's a windy condition, you got to make sure you get it adjusted properly or you're going to get some backlashes. But there's no reason why you should have any fears or nightmares about using a bait casting reel like this. A little bit of practice, whether you're using the spinning reel or whether you're using the bait casting reel, is going to go a long way. The more you practice, if you're a basketball player, if you're struggling shooting free throws, what do? You practice shooting free throws. Same thing with a bait casting reel or spinning reel. You want to do it accurately and do it correctly, get out in your yard and do some practice. And you don't have to do it with a lure on there. You can put a rubber casting plug on there like what we buy for the kids to use practice. But I hope that information is going to help you. But remember, whether you use a spinning reel or whether you use a bait casting reel, you got to keep them clean. You got to keep them maintained. Take them to somebody that knows what they're doing and let them service them. I recommend at least once a year having them go over it for you. And I think that's going to solve a lot of your problems.
Flashing down the railroad track, blue smoke rolling from the old smokestack. Oh,